Hello, we are the Strongest Avengers. Uh, our team is made up of the following Avengers: Aaron, Alex, and Henry, who are researchers, and then Phoebe and Ron, who are designers. Our team mission is ultimately to create a system that allows users to seamlessly connect, communicate, and collaborate across time and space, as well as inspire future generations and lastly promote personal growth. So when we started out, we did so by considering our diverse set of passions, and these include what we see on the screen above. So that's VR, AR, community service, working parents, education, online collaboration, and design spaces, amongst many others. And we ultimately just wanted to investigate real human problems today. So as a self-directed group, we had a very tumultuous ride before coming to a final design decision. So I'll quickly work through that process, or what that process roughly looked like right now. So when we came together as a team initially, we did so as a team with very diverse but compatible skill sets. So going into our first meeting, we had to decide whether we wanted a sponsored project or not. We decided to pursue a self-directed project because it offered the most flexibility. Once we settled on a self-directed project, we started the process of figuring out which problems we wanted to solve. After considering all of our interests, passions, and the little bit of preliminary research that we did, we settled on how can technology help users maintain healthy behaviors. Unfortunately, we swiftly came to understand the topic of behavioral health was too complex and niche for us to reasonably pursue. So we pivoted to the question, how can we leverage technology to help orphans find new homes? Sadly, and this is perhaps the lowest point, but it took some very open and honest conversations, but as a team, we realized that this was not a question we were passionate enough about, and was just not a question that we wanted to spend the next several months pursuing. So like any reasonable team would do, we completely started over. And after going back and considering our interests, and again, after engaging in some very meaningful discussion, we happily and finally chose to investigate how VR is used in an educational environment.
And that led us to our research question, which is, why does the education system not utilize VR headsets to promote virtual learning? We broke our research into 5 phases: understanding, observing, analyzing, visualizing, reviewing, and then implementation. Right now, we're in the first stage of understanding, and to do that, we're conducting user interviews, expert interviews, and literature reviews.
Our first research method includes user interviews, and the people who we wanted to learn more from were educators. The first being educators who have used VR in the classroom. The second are educators interested in using VR but haven't tried before. Now, the intention of interviewing these folks include understanding what VR means to them, identifying real challenges educators currently face in their teaching environment, which includes pre, peak, and present pandemic times. And lastly, learning more about the educator's workload, successes, and their goals as teachers. A couple juicy things we found so far include, quote unquote, break the wall in the screen. Now, the educators that we interviewed mentioned that students want to feel more immersed and connected, especially when they are learning during online classes. The second quote is giving kids space to use it. Now, a lot of the students that were brought up by this interview, we mentioned that during online learning, they oftentimes had to take classes in their bathroom or closet, which doesn't give them a lot of room to move around. The last quote is not another thing we need to do, but a way to add and make it beneficial. This educator brought up the point of, if VR is implemented in the classroom, they don't want it to be an extra workload on top of their current workload, but something that brings benefit. Now, we just started our interviews, but we are really excited to what's to come. The second interview method includes expert interviews. Now, what we want to learn from these participants, these participants include academic researchers who have worked on or with VR, industry pros who have successfully implemented VR in education. What we want to take away from these expert interviews include, well, we want to learn about VR ourselves. Secondly, we want to receive expert input on VR in education and what that looks like. And lastly, we want them to give us inspiration on our ultimate design question that we want to pursue.
And for our literature review, at a high level, we found that online learning since the pandemic has highlighted some of the challenges in keeping students engaged and attentive. So we wanted to understand how VR might keep these students engaged in the classroom or at home. A lot of the research focuses on higher education settings, and a lot of the research focuses on usability instead of education outcomes. So there's areas for research there. Some of the benefits we found are that it opens up new learning environments beyond the classroom or home. The immersive effects of VR are associated with increased engagement and information retention, and that cost is expected to be less of a barrier in the coming years as the technology matures. Some of the potential challenges of using VR in the classroom are the lack of existing educational content for teachers or homeschoolers to use, the fact that it can be difficult for educators to customize VR experiences for their particular educational goals, and then lastly, the long-term educational achievement benefits of VR versus non-immersive technologies are still unclear.
So overall, we adopted an approach of design sprint and expanded into 2 quarters. Currently, we are at stage 2 doing research, mostly interviews. By the end of the quarter, we should have looked into our interest areas by conducting in-depth literature review and interviews with both experts and users. We expect to narrow down the research question and define our problem focus by analyzing the research data. From there, we will be able to find some design opportunities that are worth deeper investigation. So starting next quarter, we will continue to investigate into the design opportunities that we identified this quarter and generate a well-framed design question. Based on that, we will start a phase of ideation and prototyping. The artifacts we will produce include persona, journey map, prototype, etc. We will quickly iterate our ideas and prototypes by getting feedback from classmates and professors and also testing with our users. So this is our current status. We will look forward to more interesting findings and innovative ideas to come in this quarter and also next quarter. So thanks everybody for listening.